and his vice president, Kamala.
Yes, it's time to make our dreams come true. No more negativity in our way. No more negativity. No more negativity. Hey, Joe and Kamala, are you ready to go? Oh, Kamala and Joe, are you ready to go to the White House? And I know you got your work cut out, ain't no doubt. It shouldn't be this bad. This nation is divided, so let's pull it all together and make things better. Pull it together, make things better and better and better and better for everybody. Better for everybody. Better for everybody. And I know you got your work cut out, ain't no doubt. It shouldn't be this bad. This nation is divided, so let's pull it all together and make things better. Pull it together, make things better and better and better and better for everybody. Better for everybody. Better for everybody. And I know you got your work cut out, ain't no doubt. It shouldn't be this bad. This nation is divided, so let's pull it all together and make things better. Pull it together, make things better and better and better and better for everybody.
Good evening. I'm Wanda Carter. I'm your host today for the Chicago Communicator News Media. We're going to have a discussion this evening with Congressman Danny K. Davis, and he's going to be talking with us about the no-knock warrant. Anybody heard of the no-knock warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, there he goes. Congressman Danny K. Davis, how are you?
I am doing good. How are you doing? And all of those who are with you.
Oh, thank you, Congressman. Oh, I'm so glad you came on to give us an update on what this no-knock warrant is all about. Everybody wants to know, and we appreciate you taking the time to tell us about it.
Well, let me just say that I am delighted to have the opportunity to share with you and the rest of the audience. And what we're really talking about is law enforcement processes and procedures in this country. I believe a great deal in looking at history in terms of understanding how things got to be the way that they are. Things didn't just happen all of a sudden, that this is the way it is. Something fell out the sky and people decided this is how they were going to do things. It's my position that law enforcement in this country, especially as it relates to African Americans, has always been a great deal about containment. You got to understand that Black people basically were slaves ever
Okay.
since we've been in this country.
Okay.
Sometimes it wasn't as bad as it was at other times. Sometimes there weren't as many of us as there were at other times. So it didn't appear to be as bad. But containment has been a part of law enforcement. And if you look at as African American populations
Okay.
increase, as they brought more slaves and they brought more slaves and they brought more slaves, they had to figure out how to keep these slaves contained,
Okay.
how to keep them subdued, how to keep them oppressed, how to keep them afraid, and how to keep them enslaved.
Enslaved. Wow.
And so there are some law enforcement officials who still view that as being their role and intent when it comes to policing in the Black community. So processes and procedures have evolved.
Okay.
The biggest level, I think, of discontent, other than the whole business of poverty and economic disparities
Okay.
that Black folks have experienced in this country and continue to experience, is the idea that we're not treated fair.
Okay. And we're not.
We're not treated fair
Yes.
by the judicial system.
Yeah.
We're not treated fair. I'm
Yes.
saying if you're Black, you're subject to be treated one way for something.
Right.
And if you're not, you're subject to be treated another way.
Correct.
I'm saying if you look at the penitentiary,
Okay.
the largest majority of any population group in the penitentiary in the United States of America are African American males. The fastest growing part of the penitentiary is young Black women.
That is terrible. But I know that's true.
It is terrible, but it's true.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yes.
The United States of America is the most imprisoned nation in the world. We have more of our people incarcerated than any other place in the world.
We got to do something about that, Congressman.
Than any other place in the world.
Yes.
So it has to do with arrest and the way that goes on. It has to do with even when you go to court, you don't feel like you get equal justice. You don't
Yes.
feel like you get equal treatment.
Right.
You can commit or be accused of committing the same crime as somebody else. You may get one sentence and they get a different sentence.
Yes.
And that is still going on. And so the no-knock warrant, really the big discussion about it and all came about as Miss Young turned out that the police came into her home. They had the wrong address. They just they just broke in. She happened to be, I guess, coming out of the bathtub,
Yes.
something, and she was undressed. And they kept her confined there for 45 minutes or so.
Oh, wow.
And treated her terribly.
And did not allow her to get dressed, right?
Did not allow her to get dressed. And so the big issue became, as the footage of the information became available, the law enforcement people wanted to keep it suppressed.
Yes.
They didn't want the television station that had it to be able to show it. That became the big controversy.
Okay.
Then, as people saw it, they couldn't believe it had actually happened that way.
Yes.
And so that brought to light some of the disparities. Like
Okay.
in some communities, there are virtually no investigations of this type.
Yes.
In other communities, there are many investigations
Any investigation.
of this type. So what makes one community different than the other one? So there is an effort to reform law enforcement, to reform. Someone asked me the other day, a reporter asked me, was doing a story, if I had ever heard of Gloves Davis. And I
Love
told him
safety.
that not only had I heard Gloves Davis, but I knew Gloves Davis, who used to be a notorious Black police officer who
Oh,
had a reputation of
Wow.
carrying leather gloves.
oh,
And he was known to beat people across the face and so forth
oh my
with his
goodness.
gloves,
With his
especially
glove?
kids. Yeah, that's why they named him or called him Gloves Davis. That wasn't his
Davis.
actual name, but he had a pair of black gloves, black leather gloves. And he was,
Oh, wow. That's horrible.
but there are a lot of other instances, not only in Chicago,
Okay.
but all over the United States of America. So there is an effort to bring about equal treatment of African Americans, especially in relationship to how, if you find an African American my age, or maybe even your age,
Okay.
that hasn't had an encounter that they felt was unnecessary
Yes.
with the police,
Right.
it's almost like looking for a needle in a
In a
haystack.
haystack. Right. We've all had.
I
that
have
kind of
been
encounter.
stopped so many times by the police over the years, and not that I'm patting myself on the back, but I ain't never been nothing but a law-abiding good citizen my whole life. That's all I've ever been.
I think that's all we've all ever been.
And there's so many times they used to stop me because I had a beard. I'd ask, and I said, well, why did you? And plus, I've been in office. I've been in or something in this town for 40 years.
Long time. A
I
long
was an
time.
alderman.
Yep.
I used to have a beard, but I was an alderman, but I had a beard when I had hair. And I used to wear dashikis a lot. And
And you look
And
like the
bush
average
jacket.
black man and don't get
yeah,
stopped.
as a matter of fact, one reporter called them blouses. He said, Danny Davis, he described me one day, said I was a social worker who wore a blouse.
Oh my
I told him, I
goodness.
said, Harry, this ain't no blouse. This is a dashiki. It's not a
Oh
blouse.
wow.
So I've been stopped and told that my car looked like a car that had been involved in a robbery.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
I've
goodness.
been
Well,
stopped and told that I was in the wrong community.
Yeah. Yes.
That
Yes.
they just
Yes.
didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
And I was an alderman then. As a
Listen,
matter of fact, I was going to another alderman's house
I can
one night
believe it.
because a little group of us used to meet. And one of us lived on the north side, Alderman Volini. There were 5 or 6 of us who were called independents at the time, and Marion Volini was one of those. And we would meet to plot and plan, and I'm up in her neighborhood on the north side looking for a house.
In the wrong neighborhood, probably at the
Wrong
wrong time.
neighborhood. But thanks to groups, like Black Lives Matter and lots of groups, not just Black Lives Matter, but Black Lives Matter and other groups who've been raising issues in such a way that more attention has come. And
Yes.
and of course the death of Miss Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. George and other people. Just last week, the police killed somebody in Texas who was having a mental crisis thing, and they called the police, and the police ended up killing the poor man.
Oh my goodness.
And so trying to get law enforcement to change is
It's
what
gonna be a
this
real
really
thing.
is all about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been in favor of what we call civilian review boards and civilian review panels for years, but it's getting more attention now as a result, especially of Black Lives Matter and other groups and that kind of thing.
Okay, the floor is open. We have our co-host. She's now available, Thomas A. Yarrington. Thomas A.
Hey.
You're
Okay,
talking about Thomas A. Yarrington?
yes, it is.
That goes way. I remember when she
Way
was
back.
nothing but a young activist, and still a young activist.
Still a young
That's
activist.
correct.
There
That's
you go.
correct.
Absolutely, it's so good to see you.
So good to see you, Congressman. How are you? You looking good.
I'm hanging
Yes, he
in. I
is.
can't complain. She went down to Springfield and stuff. Stayed down there for just, I
Still
guess.
here. Still
Oh,
here.
okay. All right.
See?
All right.
Still there. And then
Well,
we
you
have-
know, Congressman, I remember you when I was a young girl, before you even started politics. I think you were working probably at,
that long, huh?
Yeah, or
That long.
something. Yeah.
Well, you used to be with Ma Henry all the time, and I
Oh,
remember
Mo
when,
Henry actually worked for me,
Wow.
yes.
although I actually worked for her. Mo Henry
Yes.
was 90. Mo Henry lived to be almost 100 years old.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. That's
She
wonderful.
learned to drive a car after she was 70.
Oh,
Right.
She was
Graduated
working
from
for-
college about 72 or
And
something.
then she graduated from college. She went
Oh,
to
my
Daniel Hale
goodness.
Williams,
Yes.
got herself a degree.
Yes.
And of course, I named the post office after
Yes.
her.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The post
Yes.
office on Madison Street in the 40, I guess about 4200 block or so is
Yep.
the Mary Alice Mo Henry Post Office.
Wow.
Correct.
That's so wonderful. Hey, y'all.
Correct.
One of the
Yes.
most fascinating people I've ever known in my life.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, listen, Congressman, we got so many people on the line, want to talk to you, want to ask questions. I want to open the floor and ask Anthony. I know you, Grady. I know you guys got something to say. TJ, we have a young person on the line, Congressman Davis, and he always asks such potent questions. So I'm listening, TJ. I'd like for you to address the congressman, ask him what you need to know about the no
Well,
knock warrant.
can I say something before the young man come in?
Sure, go
See,
ahead.
Thomas A was talking about her history with the Congress. Well, watch this. I met her because of him.
Oh,
Yeah, he gave me my letter to be a so-called YD. I didn't know her before then. So I met her in Bismarck
Peter
Hotel.
Norwood did not fall out of no Cracker Jack box.
His mama,
Grady
yeah.
Norwood, let me tell you, Miss Irene Norwood
Yes. Yes.
was one of the founders of the South Austin Coalition Community Council, which I
Yeah.
always say is the most effective grassroots community organization
Yes.
I've ever known, period.
oh, wow.
Anywhere in the country.
In the
Miss
country.
Norwood was the utilities chairman.
Uh-oh.
And let me
Right.
tell you, when she spoke, everybody listened. Everybody listened.
Yes. Yes.
That's Grady Norwood's mother.
That's rating on with my, oh, wow, okay. So that y'all got some history for real.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
indeed.
Huh?
Hey,
Welcome to the show, Yvonne.
guess what I did? Guess what I did on election night? On election night, I came down there and thanked him. I personally pulled him over to the side and thanked him because a lot of the stuff that I've learned, this political stuff, is because of him. And I ain't trying to, y'all ain't trying to just say, I ain't trying to say, well, he just doing that. No, I'm just giving him his props while he's still here.
All right.
Yes.
Well,
All
we're
right.
all really community. We are family.
Yes, we
We are
are.
cut from the same cloth.
Yes.
Whatever it is that I am, whatever I've been able to do, the people in the community have always been the wind beneath my wings.
Oh, I
And
love
it's
that.
people like Miss Norwood and others who got me elected to office,
Yes.
kept me in office,
Okay.
and who gave me direction in terms of what I should be doing.
All right. That's a wonderful thing. You need
Yep.
that input. Need that input. Anybody in office needs that input so you know what your residents, what your community wants from you. Naima.
Otherwise, there's no point in being in office.
That's right. That's right. I
If
understand.
you're not representing the people who put you there,
That's right.
then what are you doing there?
In office. You're right. You're right. Questions?
Well,
Congressman.
hello, Congressman Davis. I
Yes.
hope you're doing well. I understand. Well, I know that.
Introduce yourself, TJ.
I'm TJ Daniels. I'm a high school student. I'm very politically minded and hope to actually run for Congress in the state of North Carolina, which is becoming more democratic. And
It sure is.
All right, TJ.
that in the 116th Congress, you served as the chair of the family, I believe, in the subcommittee on worker and family support. And no-knock warrants seem to do a lot to a family, especially when it's a family that is so tightly bonded together. So I'd just like to know, what is your take on the mental aspect of no-knock warrants that seem to traumatize children for quite a while?
You know, that's a very interesting question and a great question because trauma is caused by uncertain interruptions of one's life.
Yes.
I'm saying anything that interrupts your life can be traumatic.
Yes.
And we've got psychologists and psychiatrists. I'm actually by training a psychologist.
Oh. Okay.
And yes, that's and I used to be in the practice of psychology.
Oh, wonderful.
Bobby Wright and I were classmates
Yes.
and went to school together. Dr. Bobby Wright, that we named the mental health center.
Yes, yes. I didn't know that. Oh,
So
Nope.
trauma is a big factor contributing negatively to people's lives. I mean, it's like having a bad accident.
yeah.
And I've got members of my family who've had traumatic experiences. For example, my grandson was killed in a home invasion
Okay.
where some people just came in their home. He was 15 years old and they got into an argument. And of course, he was killed. He has a sister who was just a year or so older than him. And she's had that traumatic experience
Yes.
and has not been the same since.
Yes.
So anything that interrupts
Yes.
the normal flow of one's activity can be traumatic. I'm so glad that you called and that you're going to do that. They've got some great congressmen in North Carolina right now, a fellow named G.K. Butterfield who used to be a judge before he became a congressman, and Dr. Alma Adams, who is a college professor
Okay.
before she became a congressman. And they are the two Black members of Congress from North Carolina.
Oh, thank you, Congressman. You see it here, TJ? It was worth your while today, huh? All right, Naima, Elizabeth,
Yes.
Ron, come on, y'all. Let's talk to the Congressman. He has blessed us with this time. We need to pick his brain and find out what we need to know about this
Okay,
no
well,
not warrant.
Here's my question, Congressman Davis. Why are they more concentrating on impeaching Donald Trump instead of putting him in jail? They put everybody I know in jail
That's
who
right.
said something.
Yeah.
Why they're not pushing for more jail time opposed to impeachment?
Well, you know, Donald Trump has been the most unusual president this country has ever had.
Yeah.
There are many people who would say that he is the worst president, and we've had some bad ones. And he's the worst president the country has ever had. And that
Excuse
may
me.
even be the most racist acting president. And we've had some racist presidents also, like Woodrow Wilson, Andrew Johnson,
Yeah.
and we've had some terrible ones. But what they're trying to do now in terms of impeachment, we know that he is out of office. We've impeached him twice.
Mm-hmm.
I voted to impeach him 3 times. Because the first time that I voted, we didn't get enough votes to do it. Representative Al Green, a Black member of Congress from Texas, had an impeachment resolution that didn't get the votes that were needed. If he can be convicted in the Senate, and we know that's a big challenge, people really are trying now to stop Donald Trump from being the focus of what basically the Republican Party is. And so if he can spend the next 4 years trying to organize Republicans saying he's going to run again for president, he's going to take up a lot of our time. He's going to divert a lot of attention from feeding the hungry, or attention from putting clothes on people who are cold and naked, or appropriating money that could make sure people have heat during the wintertime. So we don't want Donald Trump to have the public space that he is going to have. If we can impeach him, it means, convict him that he can never run for national office again in this country.
That's one thing, Congressman, but isn't it a crime to incite a mob? So
it is.
So if you incite a mob, I mean, why isn't he locked up already? He incited the mob. It was seen worldwide. So what's the problem? I mean, he has a list of things that they can charge him with, but this is definitely something they're seeing on TV.
But we think that's something that can get him. I hear you're saying that you think he really ought to be put in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
But listen,
we
listen.
can't do that.
All of them politicians need to be locked up.
What kind
I
of
do have a question.
Let me just say this about the all. There are members of Congress who are putting legislation in the hopper, calling for all of the individuals who participated be seriously prosecuted. And there's a big argument going on because some people are saying let's try and unify the country. And there are others who are saying, yes, that's true, but you can't unify without dignity. And you can't unify without people having to pay the price for their transgressions that they have transgressed, and that they must be accountable for that. And something must happen. I agree with those who say something must happen.
Something must happen. They
And-
let too many of them people walk out of that Capitol, Congressman. They left. You know that if it had been us, we
I don't
wouldn't have
think there's
left.
any-
We wouldn't be here to talk about it.
Everybody is saying that, just about. I'm saying just about everybody that I know are saying,
It was
has
staged.
this
That's
been
why.
a Black Lives Matter demonstration?
Yes,
Or a group that was predominantly African
that's
American
right.
carrying on this kind of behavior at the nation's capital?
That's right.
Right.
That the treatment would have been very different.
Very different.
And I agree, although I understand when Dr. Martin Luther King said, you know, that hate can't get rid of hate, that it takes love, or that darkness can't get rid of darkness, it takes light. And so, yeah, I believe that we should try and unify, but I don't believe in bending over, letting somebody else ride your back.
Yes.
And so I think it has to be done with dignity. I mean, there are members of Congress right now filing ethics charges against other members of Congress
They need to.
because those members have confronted them in a way that they say it makes them feel uncomfortable. And then there are some members who want to carry guns. When we go on the floor now, we have to go through a metal detector before we can go on the floor to vote.
Wow.
We have to go through a metal detector. So the country's in bad shape. I can't deny that. And it's going to take a lot of effort.
But Congressman, one of the things that has continued to be an issue is the way police are given some kind of immunity for the things that they do. And there's a lot of people who saw that the people who should have been policing and guarding were not, and they seem to be in favor of what was happening with the rioters at the Capitol. Just like here in Chicago, we've had so many issues of police misconduct, but yet I understand that there's, you know, safeguards that prevents them from being treated right like regular citizens. Is that something that can be undone on a federal level so that citizens feel like they're not going to be subjected to the whims of a police officer and have their lives endangered? Is that something that can be done in terms of legislation that would be across the board for all cities that are facing this same problem?
And that's US, that's across the US.
Yes.
Trying to get that kind of legislation passed, I'm in favor of it. And what you're saying is that if we were able to have people file lawsuits against individuals when they misuse their authority and their power,
Yes.
and file the lawsuit against them as well as the lawsuit against whoever they're working for.
Yeah.
For example, the city of Chicago has paid out millions and millions of dollars
Yes.
in these kind of lawsuits.
Yes.
But the lawsuits were against the city of Chicago. not against the individual police officer.
Okay.
And people are feeling that one way to checkmate these individuals is that a person could file a lawsuit against the individual, where the individual became liable. Trying to get that passed is proven to be challenging.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that we give up on it, because if we keep trying and keep trying, eventually we can win. But I'm the honest opinion about it is that it is very difficult to achieve. I'm saying to get enough votes. For example, let's say we look at Congress right now, Democrats have the majority, but we may get down to only having a 2 or 3 vote majority in the House. We even have a scenario where we may end up with only a 1 vote majority in the House, because several of our members have been appointed to cabinet positions by the president. And each time one of them leaves, that reduces the number. In the Senate, at best, all we got is a 50-50 tie. And so if somebody is sick on the day of a vote and they can't get there, or they're on their way to Washington and have an accident or something, then we lose. And so it's very tight to be able to get certain types of legislation passed, but it does not mean that we won't be trying. Both leaders have said that we are going to push to the hilt. Nancy Pelosi has said it, and Chuck Schumer has said it. So we just have to, but it's hard.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
My question is, if doctors have to carry malpractice insurance, then why shouldn't police officers have to pay and carry malpractice insurance? And I'm quite sure if their premiums consistently go up, they would stop doing some of the things that they do.
I agree wholeheartedly, and we're saying the same thing. But I'm saying getting 51 votes in the Senate or 218 votes in the House is not without challenge.
What about if we start writing campaigns and petitions and to each of our senators and
every bit of that works. That's what we have to do, and we have to go beyond that, because in some places like Illinois, we have 2 Democratic senators who by and large vote the same way that we vote in the House. I'm saying we don't have a big problem with the 2 senators in Illinois.
Okay.
But we have many other states
where
we don't have 2 senators that's going to be willing to vote for this.
So can I say Florida?
Oh, no.
Florida. See, when you keep saying 2 senators and 2 representatives, the states that come to mind are Texas, Florida, Mississippi. Let me think of somebody else. What other state likes lynching black people?
All of them.
Alabama.
I was going to say Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah.
North Carolina, South Carolina. I mean, the country is really divided by state. I mean, it hasn't changed since
the Civil War.
Slavery.
Right.
Slavery, right. But this,
and it was,
the issue is, this is a systemic problem. This isn't because of one person. If you get a new job, you can change the player at the top. If it's been there for so long, you have to change the whole department. You got to change the thinking from the person at the top.
It took a lot of help from people all over the country. I even had a fundraiser for the senatorial candidates in Georgia. I'm not known as a big fundraiser, but I had a fundraiser. And I got a list of people over here who sent money from Illinois down to Georgia. I got to write them all and thank them for doing it. And a brother named Paul King. Some of you probably know Paul. Paul is an Alpha, and so I'm an Alpha. And we got some Alpha brothers together, and they sent money to Georgia, even though we're not in Georgia. We're not got anything to do with Georgia. I wrote a check to the Senate campaign in Georgia. I don't mean a campaign check from my campaign. I mean from Danny Davis' pocket. Vera Davis sent several checks. I'm saying there are ways that
We got to do
can
all
help
those things because change
people in
won't
those
happen.
places where we don't live. We had a
Even
black,
here.
we in
Congressman
Mississippi, we
Davis.
had a fella running.
All right.
Mike
Okay.
Epstein ran, and for a while it looked like he was doing pretty good. Actually, Mike Epstein is the first cousin to Leon Finney. They're first cousins. Well, Leon,
Oh, wow.
but he did a good job of running, but he didn't get elected. In the South, in most, the only Democrats in some of those states is the Black Democrat coming from the urban part of the state. For example, in Louisiana, Cedric Richmond, who just went to work for Biden, comes from New Orleans. He was the one Democrat. In Mississippi, Benny Thompson from Jackson. He's black. He was the one Democrat. Jim Clyburn in South Carolina, he's the one Democrat. So those states, we just have to keep working on it while we work on where we are. I mean, we can never think that we've gotten to the penthouse when we're in the basement. I'm saying, even though Illinois is a good state for some things, we got to keep working. We finally got our first Black Speaker of the House in Illinois.
Okay.
In the history of the state, even though we've had a Black person become president, we had never had a Black Speaker of the Illinois General Assembly. Chris Welch just became that 2 weeks ago, and we gotta keep working to make sure we keep it going.
Keep it going.
And so it's an ongoing thing all the time.
Okay, Vincent, Milton, you guys got questions for the congressman? Ray, George, Kirk, you got questions for the congressman?
Hi, Wanda. This is Sandra. I have a
Hi,
question
Sandra.
for the congressman.
Okay.
Good evening, Congressman Davis. Long time no speak to. Good to see you're doing well.
Thank you.
My question goes back a little bit when we were talking about the problems that 45 has left for us to deal with as it relates to bringing the country together. Moreover, my biggest concern is the fact that this person had 70 million people vote for him, even after they knew of all the heinous acts that he had committed. They knew of the 30,000 lies he had told while in office. They knew of the 545 children, small children, infants and toddlers, that he had separated from their parents. To have a number so large follow such a vile individual, it leaves me very concerned. I'm not one of the younger ones who are going out here now, one of the trailblazers opening up things. I'm more of the middle age settling down. I'm a federal employee, have been for 30 years. And I'm looking at the fact that here I do civil rights, and I'm talking about diversity and inclusion. And then in reality, I look on our election day, and I see that this guy received 70 million votes. That's alarming. And how do we as a nation heal and try to turn that around and get some of those 70 million people that are on that side back on the right side within the next 3.5 years?
Prayer.
It is hard to get people to
Excuse me,
change
is this
their
call about no
behavior.
knock warrant? Is this
Well,
call
let me
about
just-
no knock warrant?
Yes, it is.
Yes. It's hard to get people to change their behavior. For example, we got almost 1 million Black people in Chicago. There's not one Black-owned bank in Chicago.
Yeah.
There's one Illinois Savings and Loan that the family from Africa, from Ghana, bought. That's the one Black-owned financial institution. We used to have 7 or 8,
Yep.
but there were Black people who didn't use them. They were using First National, Second National, and
Yeah.
they wasn't using Seaway. Now they're intelligent, because we got a whole bunch of intelligent Black people
Yep.
in Chicago. But we somehow or another did not support those banks. There used to be about 20 Black-owned automobile dealerships in
I
Chicago.
remember those days.
Bunch of the folks, I knew some of them personally. You know, Cadillac Al Johnson Cadillac.
Yep.
Jesse Madison, who became the first guy we elected to go to, used to work for
Yes.
Dinwiddie Edwards Ford
Yeah.
over on Madison Street. But Black folks wasn't buying their cars from them. And even though we knew the value of doing so, I can think of all the wonderful Black restaurants that people used to just could go to and have breakfast and enjoy
Yes.
themselves. They
Yes.
could go after church on Sunday and get the stuff they really liked. But, you know, they got where they could go to the other places and they stopped going there. So it's hard. I'm not saying that these are excuses, but I'm saying I know lots of Black folks who smoke cigarettes, drink a lot of whiskey, and they know that cigarette smoking is in all likelihood gonna cause you to get lung cancer, but they do it anyhow. And they drink as much Jack Daniels as they can hold, not just enough to get a little, you know, buzz on. I'm saying it's challenging for people to change behavior that they had become accustomed to.
Yeah.
Just like we still have millions of our people who are not registered to vote.
Yes.
I am proud of the folks in the district that I represent, because 247,000 of them voted in the 7th district in this
Wow.
last election.
Wonderful.
But there were still
Yeah.
thousands who didn't,
Yes.
who were eligible, but did not.
Yes.
So we just have to keep the faith.
Yeah.
We have to believe in what we believe and keep working like the devil to try and make it happen.
Yes.
I mean, the why of these things is very difficult to answer other than oppression. People in charge always try to remain in charge.
Right.
People who got always try to make sure that they continue to get.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm saying And those who don't, we have to figure out a way to break into those circles and
Yes.
believe that we can do it.
All right.
Congressman, I have a question about no knock. So is there a way for us, is there a way to ban them completely?
Well, the state legislature, now, you know, the brothers and sisters in Springfield just passed some good legislation. And the criminal justice reform package that they passed contains provisions for no knock.
Okay.
And I'm saying, of course, the laws, when you pass a law, then oftentimes it has a time to go into effect, that it starts. And we also have to look at the implementation of it. I think there are new training things going on with law enforcement people. Let me tell you, it breaks my heart when young African Americans will not become law enforcement personnel,
Okay.
will not become policemen. We need more Black people with good hearts and good minds to become policemen.
Okay.
I mean, we're not going to reach the point where we can do without policemen. I mean, we're going to have them.
Yeah.
But why can't more of them be people who come from the communities where we live?
Because, wait a minute, okay, that goes back to who's at the top.
And who lets
in the 60s and the 70s, you recruited them from grade school. You started a little young boy when he was 8, 9, 10. You put your arm around him. You took him to, he did police trainings. He became active. The police wasn't the same. Now, these 8, 9 year old boys, because of ADD, you know, they got whatever issues little boys have.
Yeah.
They're not focused.
But we got to stop it. We got to do something.
Wait a minute. So that goes back to us not giving up. One of the things we have to do is kind of go back and use some of those old techniques that we used.
Yeah.
We used to have the nurse at school.
Yeah.
We used to have the mentor at school. You had everything you needed in grade school.
Yeah.
If they didn't have it at school, they had a social center down the street from the school.
Right.
They had some. So going back to, we need to implement those same programs. Even when you were a kid, when I was a kid, Congressman, if you did something wrong, you got spanked by your mama, the woman down the street, the neighbor, everybody.
Child abuse.
So you got to put things in place.
That's child abuse now.
Yes, it is. It is child abuse.
All I'm saying, it was layers of instruction.
Yes.
Or protection.
Yes.
So if you did wrong here, you were called out. So the behavior that some of our politicians, that certainly, and these people that elected the past president, that's bad behavior. If you don't deal with it now, it will continue to get worse.
Yeah.
So yes, we have to do things differently. We have to show love. We have to show kindness. We have to put things in place that are not in place, that are not seen. So it's going to take a lot of God, because all things are possible through God.
That's right.
So
we don't have our fair share, but we've got more Black elected officials now than we've ever had.
Exactly.
And they can't agree either, Congressman. So what do you do?
But excuse me, we have the Chicago Police Department has the junior young police officers program, and it's been in effect, and they do recruitment constantly. I mean, they have it all the time. I agree with you. It probably needs to be announced more. And I do agree with you that, again, we need to have officers that come from the community and understand
Yes.
the culture of our various communities.
Right. I agree.
I agree too.
And that's going forward. And the same what like you would say when they would understand about when we're talking about no knock, and like TJ said earlier, the psychological trauma that it puts on the children, and not just on the children. I think people need to understand that the no knock also has a traumatic effect on the community as a whole. Because again, why would anyone feel safe in your home anymore? Because here you are, you're paying your mortgage, you happen to be a homeowner. Somebody makes a mistake with one of their informants, and they give your address because somebody 7 years ago lived here, and this might have been a trap house that they remodeled, or what's that house where they grow the weed in all the time, and now they've remodeled it. You didn't know anything about it. Here you are just getting out with your degree. You're starting up, you're happy, and voila, you're caught up just like she is. And then how does everyone else feel now? Because now our whole community feels violated. But one of the abatements that they put in for the banning, the sad part of it is most of this law, when it comes to banning the no knock, it doesn't even take effect to 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, so, and then again, just like the congressman was speaking earlier, this is stuff that's done at a local level. And unless you influence the powers that be at the local level, as well as at the state level, to do this different, the federal government doesn't just come out and say, well, you guys can't have no knocks, because they're right, people would have a fit. But at some point, we got to make it, they got to make it better. Oh no, if they try to get rid of it. But they did add, and I noticed I saw in the new plan where 2 officers who are wearing cameras must enter at the same time. Now I don't know if that's going to be upheld, because we see how they've been stopping the cameras or saying the cameras are broken.
Right.
In other cities,
and that
in
makes
other
no
places.
sense. How you go?
Right.
How that makes no sense.
No sense at
Any
all.
officer whose camera isn't on and something goes down should be punished.
Exactly.
It should automatically go against him. If you at
But
work,
again, we're talking about accountability. We're talking about holding them accountable. So again, what entity holds these people accountable? Who does that belong to?
All right. So what say you, Congressman? What do you think?
I think what we're saying is that in order for democracy to work, it takes a lot of effort on the part of us all. I'm saying,
I agree.
which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
In terms of, obviously, our communities have levels of dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that should not be happening that are happening. We have many dysfunctional families.
Right.
And I always take the position that everything begins with self.
Yes.
If it is to be, let it begin with me.
I like that.
And I also take the position that you can't lead where you don't go.
There you go.
And you can't teach what you don't know.
Don't know.
Ooh-wee. Nice.
And it takes all of us. I mean, if we could start on the block we live on and try to make that block a model block. Actually, the first conversation that I had with the mayor of the city of Chicago after she was elected, I suggested to her that I thought it would be real good if the city could find a little money or something to put into block club organizing.
Oh, that would
just help people organize.
Yes.
the
That
blocks
was the
they live
the
on.
lick in the 60s and 70s.
Yes, it
I
was.
also had that conversation with the governor
Excellent.
of the state of Illinois
All right.
and suggested that maybe the state could find a way. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. I'm saying if there was just some person kind of help to be in charge of organizing the block.
Yes.
I really started doing this work, organizing block clubs. And to be very honest about it, I had a lot of fun doing it. And some of the blocks that I encountered, people had some very unique ways of organizing their block.
Okay.
And I admit that in most areas, block club organizing is going out of style.
Yep.
And we think of something bigger and I guess more sophisticated sounding than that in terms of how we solve problems. But I do believe that nothing could be more effective in solving some of the problems that we always discuss than organizing the blocks where we live.
I like that kind of.
Just
Amen. That's great.
having a block organized.
It worked.
Like,
It worked in the 70s, I tell you.
Yes. And it'll
it
work.
works. For example, if a block is organized and somebody see a kid that's missing school,
Yep.
they could go to the family and say, I see that Johnny, I saw him up down the street the other day and
Exactly.
he playing hooky. I don't know if he was or not, but I just don't know if you knew
Exactly.
that he wasn't in school.
Yeah.
I saw a group of boys in the alley shooting craps. And I don't know if your son, but one of them looked like he may have been
Yes.
Junebug, you know, I mean,
Yeah, I had that. Yep.
but I'm saying, and say if somebody is out of work and somebody else saw a sign on the board at their job that there was a vacancy for so and so, and they could make that announcement at the block club meeting. I mean, I can go to some blocks that I just had and some of the families, I still know those families. I know the individuals, and we just had a nice time. I mean, I'm talking about, and some of them there was Boy Scouts in some,
All kinds of stuff.
or
Got 3
Girl
minutes, ladies
Scout.
and gentlemen. Talk to the congressman. You got 3
Hey,
minutes.
hey, Congressman Danny.
Yeah,
This is Trustee Travis. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing? I saw you sitting there sophisticated looking with all them books and stuff behind you and all that. Yeah.
I have two serious questions. One is a question I got up there on the chart in the chat. Qualified immunity. If you can address that for a second. And then the second question is this guy named Joe Manchin who act like he's a Republican instead of a Democrat.
We actually talked a little bit about it when we first started in terms of saying that, for example, police officers, when they felt that they had violated their job, their trust, their work, and rather than just suing the city of Chicago, if they could go after the individual. And somebody else raised the question about malpractice insurance, where we, can sue the doctor. and so it's essentially the same question. We did mention that, of course, all of the unions that represent any of these individuals would be opposed to that provision
Yes.
that would allow for their individuals to be gone after in terms of accountability. It's coming, but it's taken a long time. I'm saying the discussion is heating up, and there are still things that we thought would never happen. For example, I can remember when people thought that we would not be able to outlaw smoking in public places,
Yes.
Right.
and we did.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
I remember it was my ordinance, me and a guy named Ray Figueroa, who first passed the ordinance in the Chicago City Council that separated smokers from non-smokers in public places. And then Ed Smith came along and pushed real hard, and he and Ed Burke got it where you could outlaw smoking in public places in Chicago, period. Then Karen Yarger from your town,
Yep.
Maywood, Illinois, carried the bill in the state legislature that outlawed smoking in public places in the state of Illinois, period. That happened. So I think
Anything is possible.
we keep working at things and making incremental advances on it, that it can happen. But it's the hottest topic going on right now.